Imagine it's 4:30 in the morning. Outside, it's pitch black and raining. That classic gray, rain-soaked Irish weather that seeps into your bones and drains your will to move. In a small bedroom in the suburbs of Dublin, a young man named Conor McGregor is waking up. He's not heading to a gym under the bright lights. He's heading to a 12-hour shift as a plumber's apprentice. His hands are calloused, and his skin is cracked from the biting cold. His reality? Crawling through the mud on construction sites, freezing water dripping down his neck as he fixes burst pipes in half-built houses that offer no shelter from the wind. He hated every second of it. Every drop of falling water and every glance at his co-workers who seemed to have long ago accepted their fate. He felt that this wasn't his life. He felt he wasn't built for this, that his true potential was being suffocated by the trap of mediocrity. While his colleagues talked about their weekend plans or what was on TV, Conor's mind was elsewhere. In his mind, he already saw the spotlights, heard the roar of thousands, and felt the heavy weight of a gold belt on his shoulder. To understand this unshakable faith, you have to go back even further, to the dusty streets of his childhood. Conor didn't grow up hating work. He grew up in the tough working-class neighborhood of Crumlin, where weakness was an invitation for trouble. As a boy, he wasn't a powerhouse. He was skinny, small for his age, and often found himself the target of older bullies on the street. It was that pit of fear in his stomach on the walk home from school that drove him, at age 12, into the Crumlin Boxing Club. There, in a gym smelling of old leather and dried sweat, Conor learned the meaning of raw discipline for the first time. His first coach, Phil Sutcliffe, saw something in him that others lacked. A terrifying ability to focus on a singular goal. Conor wasn't just training his body, he was training his instinct to survive and win at all costs. Every punch into the heavy bag was a step toward the confidence the streets tried to take from him. It was then that the seed was planted. Fighting wasn't just about muscles, it was about controlling space, time, and your own mind. The turning point came when Conor decided he simply wasn't going to show up for work anymore, choosing to risk everything for an uncertain dream. His father, Tony McGregor, was dead set against it, and the tension in the house was thick enough to draw blood. Tony believed in security, order, and a steady paycheck, the only path he knew as a hardworking man. To him, his son's idea of becoming a professional fighter was dangerous insanity and a gamble with his future. When Conor told him he was quitting plumbing to train full-time, a storm erupted that would define their relationship for years. His father shouted, "And what do you think you'll become? You want to end up as a nobody with no money?" Conor looked at him with a cold, piercing calm that stunned his father more than any shout could and replied, "By the time I'm 25, I'll be a millionaire." At the time, it sounded like the total hallucination of a boy who had lost touch with reality. No one believed him. No one but him could see the path that was about to unfold. He lived on unemployment benefits, which in Ireland at the time amounted to €188 a week, a pittance that barely allowed him to survive. Every Monday, he stood in line at the post office, surrounded by people without jobs or hope, to collect money for food and gas. Yet, even in those days when he had nothing in his pocket and his future looked like a wreckage, he carried himself like a king waiting for his throne. This brings us to the first key pillar of his mentality, the law of attraction. Conor had stumbled upon the book and film The Secret, and its philosophy became his new religion. He began to live it with every cell of his being. When he drove his old rattling Peugeot that shook at every turn, he would close his eyes and imagine he was gripping the leather steering wheel of a brand new Ferrari. He could smell the leather. He could hear the engine as if he were already there. He didn't wait for reality to happen. He created it in his head so vividly and so intensely that the universe eventually had no choice but to give it to him. On this journey into the unknown, he likely would have burned out and faded into obscurity if not for one pivotal person, Dee Devlin. They met when Conor had nothing but big dreams and bruises under his eyes. Dee stayed with him for 8 long years of soul-crushing poverty, living hand-to-mouth while their entire lives fit into a few bags. She worked tirelessly, sometimes holding multiple jobs, just to keep them both fed while Conor spent his days in the gym. She drove him to training sessions when he was too exhausted to focus and listened to his endless monologues about how he would one day conquer the world. She never told him, "Conor, be realistic. Get a normal job like everyone else." She believed in his vision as fiercely as he did, becoming his emotional anchor in a storm of doubt. Conor later admitted with tears in his eyes, "Dee is the only reason I'm here. I'm doing all of this so she never has to lift a finger again and can have everything she ever wanted." Today, they have 4 children, and Dee remains the most important person in his life, the guardian of his empire and his peace. April 2013, Stockholm. Conor got his first big break in the UFC against the veteran Marcus Brimage. The day before flying to Sweden, he picked up his final €188 welfare check just to afford the trip in basic gear. It was his last contact with a life of poverty, though only he knew it at the time. Power. But the best part came after the fight, when Conor took the microphone and instantly commanded the entire arena. He shouted the famous line, "Dana, 60 G's, baby."
With like 60 G's bonus and then my own pay. You know what I mean? I don't know what the fuck's going on, to be honest, right?
That single moment changed his life overnight, and he knew right then he would never have to stand in that post office line again. It was the beginning of an era that would rewrite the history of combat sports.
Notorious Conor McGregor!
From that moment on, an era began that the MMA world had never seen, one that changed the rules of the game forever. Conor wasn't just an elite fighter. He was a marketing genius who understood the power of words and imagery. He began using psychological warfare, trash talk, with such intensity that he broke his opponents months before they even touched gloves. People started calling him Mystic Mac because he began predicting, with terrifying accuracy, exactly which round and with which strike he would finish his rivals. Many thought it was just arrogance and theater for the cameras, but for Conor, it was the ultimate form of visualization. By speaking his promises aloud before millions, he created an extreme pressure that made his mind and body refuse to lose. He had to deliver on his word, or his entire world would cease to exist. Every press conference was his stage, and every opponent was just a puppet in his master plan. The night of the Jose Aldo fight in Las Vegas was the moment time stood still for the entire Irish nation. Aldo was the king of the featherweights, a phenomenal champion who hadn't lost in 10 years and struck fear into everyone. The tension in the arena was thick enough to choke on, and the doubters were waiting for Conor's mouth to finally hit the wall of reality. But Conor was perfectly calm in the locker room, as if he already knew what was about to happen. Cameras caught him shadowboxing, practicing one specific move over and over, a pullback and a short left hook to the chin. The fight started, the gong sounded, and in just 13 seconds, it was over.
Smiling. Oh no! Just slapped him! Right there! Conor McGregor is the new UFC featherweight champion of the world!
Jose Aldo lay unconscious on the canvas, and the world fell silent in total shock. Conor McGregor became the champion with the fastest knockout in UFC title history, proving that his mind was indeed more powerful than any physical force. But Conor didn't stop. His ambition was still hungry, and he wanted to achieve something that seemed impossible. He wanted what no one in the UFC had ever done, to hold 2 belts in different weight classes simultaneously. In November 2016, at the legendary Madison Square Garden, he faced lightweight champion Eddie Alvarez. It was a masterpiece, a display of perfect movement and dominance that the MMA world had never witnessed before. When he finished Alvarez and became the first champ in history, the arena exploded, and he became the biggest star the sport had ever seen. Sitting on top of the cage with 2 gold belts on his shoulders was the absolute peak of his incredible journey. In his post-fight interview, he delivered the legendary line that defined his uncompromising attitude.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
In that moment, he was the king of the world. But the story of Conor McGregor didn't stop at the sporting summit. He decided to conquer the worlds of wealth and influence as well. He transformed from a cage fighter into a global business mogul, a man whose name became a brand worth billions. He didn't just fulfill that promise to his father, he multiplied it 1,000 times over. In 2021, He sold his majority stake in proper number, 12 whiskey for a staggering $600 million. He became the highest-paid athlete on the planet, surpassing legends like Messi and Ronaldo, proving that a kid from Dublin could dominate the highest levels of global business. However, the path to the absolute top took a brutal toll in the form of an injury that would have broken most people forever. In July 2021, the world went silent again, this time in horror. During his fight with Dustin Poirier, Conor's tibia snapped under the weight of his own body. The sound echoed to the back of the arena, and the image of Conor on a stretcher went viral as a symbol of the end of an era. Many said, "It's over. With that much money, he'll never want to return to that pain." But Conor's mentality doesn't recognize the word end. He threw himself into rehabilitation with the same ferocity he once used to train for a title. Meanwhile, he conquered the silver screen, debuting in the 2024 blockbuster Roadhouse and becoming the highest-paid debut actor in history. Today, in 2025, Conor no longer fights for money. His family is secured for generations. He fights for his immortal legacy. As a co-owner of the BKFC organization, his return to the cage remains the most anticipated event in sports because people want to know one thing: is that hungry plumber who refused to lose still alive inside the multimillionaire? What does this incredible story of a man from Dublin tell us about our own lives and our own dreams? Conor McGregor isn't just about the money, the suits, and the yachts. He is living proof of the power of human determination. He is a reminder that the reality you find yourself in today does not have to be your reality tomorrow if you have the courage to change it. Every one of us has potential waiting to be unlocked, waiting for the moment we stop limiting ourselves with doubt. Your mind is a magnet. You must feel and see your success in the smallest details long before it ever becomes a reality. Without the internal vision of victory, the external one will never come. Words have power. Don't be afraid to speak your goals out loud, even if people laugh and call you a fool. By speaking your dream, you create an irrevocable commitment to yourself and the universe. Vision. Without work as a hallucination, Conor visualized wealth, but he outworked everyone in the gym when nobody was watching. The blood in the cage was just the tax for the dreams he dreamt in his head. Limits do not exist. Injury, poverty, ridicule, or the fear of failure are just tests to see how badly you actually want it. Real limits are only the ones we build for ourselves in our own minds. The final words of this story are a challenge to anyone dreaming of something more. It doesn't matter where you are now or how difficult your situation is. It only matters where your gaze is fixed. Do you have the courage to dream as vividly and work as hard as that plumber from Dublin? Because remember, the limits only exist until you decide to cross them.